United, who were poor, and we did play better than them. But we've just played Stoke and Leicester, and all due respect to both those sides, those should be 3-pointers every day of the season.
I agree, but I suppose, one saving grace is the fact that, okay, flip the coin. You've got United on 7 points, who have played, generally speaking, poorly. The dividing line is fine. We've played poorly as well. We just simply have 2 points. So I think that to me is cause enough to pause, to be patient, to see. I mean, we're 3 games in the season, for God's sake.
We scored more goals than them.
So I've always said, I said it a couple of weeks ago, that the dividing line in this league is very minute, relatively speaking. It's little things, and it's a long season, but I don't deny that this football is unentertaining, and I do believe that it is somewhat of a nice second prize to lose, but play well, play creatively, play flair, and there's truthfully none of that. And I'm hopeful that as an organization we do the right things, we get some players in, although I just don't, it's who knows what's going to end up happening here. It's going to be one of the worst seasons in memory for me, I would think, if we enter, if you and I are chatting this time next week without a central defensive midfielder and a striker. I just don't see how we could humanly expect to progress through another 39 more games with such a tremendous lack of resources like that, and you couldn't humanly expect to make up for that in a Christmas window. So we need to get our shit together, and we got a week to do it, less than a week. So
perfect.
All right.
So perfect segue into. I think should we chat about Everton before we do some?
Yeah, what do you reckon? What do you think we'll do?
Well, I watched the match yesterday between Everton and City, and they gave them a good run for their money for a certain time. Barkley and Lukaku definitely link up well. It's kind of what you would hope that Kane and Eriksen would be doing more consistently. But Barkley is a good talent. I'd have him in the team tomorrow if I could. But City just have that touch of class, and I must admit, at the beginning of the season, I picked Chelsea to win the title and kind of ruled City out. But
I did too.
City, granted, top of the table, haven't conceded a goal and scored. What have they scored now? I know 2-3-0 wins, and what was their result last week?
3-0, right? No, 2-0 against Everton, and then 3-0 against Chelsea the week before.
Yeah. So they've scored 8 goals, conceded none, and have demonstrated some flair football.
Boy, they have. They really have. It was fun watching them going down the left side, but I thought to myself, there's no reason why we can't do that. There's no reason. And I watch our play that's so uninventive. We pass and we sort of stop, and because we figure, okay, that player's going to take a step forward, realize that nobody's there, and just pass it right back to me anyway. And there's no. Yeah, anyway, I think it'd be a difficult game. I think we're gonna have to play a lot faster because they're very physical. They have a very, very. With McCarthy and Barkley in that midfield, that's going to be tough to go through them in the middle.
Yeah. Now, they're thin at the back. We know that Baines is out, and they lost the lad, was it Galloway, to injury yesterday, and then they brought in another youngster from the academy.
Yeah, who actually didn't play too badly. He did all right. Left back.
So I was kind of... How sad is it that you're kind of relishing their defenders dropping like flies because that may be our only opportunity to chip away? They had a good win at Southampton, but Southampton have been pretty poor so far. It certainly was a great result for them after the draw at home to Watford, but it's certainly not nice having to play City in your third game and get humbled at home. But I don't think they did poorly enough to be written off as a bad performance by them. So you're right, they're going to give us a run for our money. I think we definitely have to play it better than we did on Saturday, and you'd hope that G would get his debut. I'd like to see us mix it up. I'd definitely like to see Rose back so we've got some pace down the left.
I think it needs to be changed up.
I'd like to see Ali start. I don't know why Pritch, whether he's still getting his match fitness after his injury. I know he played in the U21s yesterday and the loss to Sunderland, but I'd like to see him, having now just signed his 4-year extension, get a place on the bench so that he can add that dimension to us, because I think he's got it in his locker, and we need to see that. And I think the fans will give some credit to Poch if he's going to back his youth policy by using them. And then we're not using Trippier right now, and that's sad. The guy was a starter week in, week out, and he hasn't seen a minute of Premier League action yet. So
yeah, and Walker's not been.
But Walker has been. He was arguably he was one of our better players on Saturday.
Yeah, probably his weakest game though of the three. But that's not necessarily not, because I think he's actually done quite. I think he had a very good game against United. And
he's looking over his shoulder.
Yeah, which is great. I'm glad he is. I'm hopeful that we change things up. We need a catalyst. We can't keep. I mean, why? What do they say? Well, you can't keep on going back and doing the same thing over and over again. It's like beating your head against the wall. Change it up. And
so, what's your prediction?
I think we win. I think we win 2-1.
I would have to agree with you. I can't.
We have to.
I just can't see the clean sheet. I really can't. I think Lukaku and Barkley add that threat that we won't be able to contain. We've just got to figure out how we're going to score 2 goals. If we could do that, it's 3 points. And
your guess is as good.
Hello, win column. As
your guess is as good as mine. All
right,
so we have 10 minutes.
Yeah.
To go over,
because we want to prove to the Ken Meister we can record a podcast under 60 minutes. So we got some questions, and we may have answered some of those, so our apologies. And these aren't going to go in any specific order as to how they came in, but and we'll try to give credit to our listeners by their Twitter handle. So eSpursUSA, which is at @E_Spurs_USA, asked the question: if we are to sign Berahino, it's a big if, would you play Kane behind him or next to him? Well, I think if I turn that over to you, Sam, if you're playing him next to him, you're playing 4-4-2, or a combination of 2 forwards. If you play him behind, it fits into what we do. And one of the questions or statements that came out of the pub is this system that we're using right now is not working. So where would you play him?
Well, these issues are not my forte, as you know. But I would say in a supporting role, I'm not opposed to a 4-4-2, but I would think that him lying behind in support would work as well. I heard somebody say, well, we're going to just do a 4-3-3 and stick him on the wing, which I think is wasteful. The boy can finish, and he's fast. I just think that he needs to be. I think we need to put him in situations similar to what we did when we had a 2-striker setup with Defoe. He's a very, very similar player to me. Poacher, can finish, burst of speed, get around a guy, quick turn, and I think you need to put him in a system where he can show off those qualities.
Very good, very good. So, hopefully that answers that question. Basically, we haven't got a clue.
Now back to the transfer window.
Anthony Silva, at Anthony Silva 23. And there's kind of a 2-part question here, because we also got a question from our friend Davey Elder, at the Spurs Poet. And so Anthony asked, if we sign a CDM, what next for Eric Dyer? Question being, are we likely to sign the CDM? I don't think we will. Now, Davey at the same time asked, is it time to drop Dyer to centre-back with Toby? And based on our feedback on Jan earlier, does Jan get a few weeks on the bench? Well, that answers the Dyer question that Anthony posed by Davey giving us the answer there. And you know what? Is there some truth to that? Based on what we saw with Jan being a bit slack and getting an earful from the captain, is that something we should consider?
Well, the manager has not been afraid to bench players when they perform poorly.
Absolutely.
Jan is, I think, the more prima donna-like of anybody in our back four. So I think he's a little bit of a different personality to manage. I think he rates himself. I think there's days where he's deserving of how he rates himself, and there are days like he had last week where he is, it's the classic, thine own body odor does not smell like perfume. And I think he just kind of, he felt like his performance was much better than what it actually was. So yeah, I think that but that type of motivating style doesn't work uniformly across a squad. So I don't know about that. Could it work? Possibly. Do I think that Dyer is a better alternative than Vertonghen in that spot? No, I don't think he is. I mean, not now. So it's a tough spot. It's a tough spot. Another game or two like this, and I don't think there would be any. I don't think there would be any uproar as to having him sit on the pine. So we'll see. I don't think quite yet, but Dyer's such a great footballer. He just, as far as I'm concerned, he just needs to be playing. He just needs to be playing. He's a good player. He's a bright talent. I didn't think he was terrible. You lamented about your balls needlessly being passed away. He was guilty of that. It wasn't his best. It wasn't his best experience at that defensive part of the pivot. But if you actually go back and watch that game, he was actually the offensive element for more than of the two midfielders than I expected him to be. And I couldn't understand that. At the beginning of the match, Mason was the one that was, at times, it seemed like he was more defensive. That just made no sense to me at all. And the other thing was why not put Lamela? Why not put Dembele in the middle and Lamela on the right? And I know that we play in this interchangeable system, but we needed a boss in the midfield there, and we needed somebody on the right that could actually threaten, and they weren't there in those spots.
I like what he's doing with Dembele and giving him the playing time, and he's again. I'm a big proponent of the way he holds onto the ball.
He had two good shots. He had the most threatening of the shots.
But he's being wasted out on the right.
He is.
I agree with that.
Because Simon, nothing. We've bitched about it all last year. So very little of what we do gets done inside the box. Yep. You look at what Man City did. It was all inside the 18, right?
Yeah.
Our opportunities just came from like the two shots that Dembele had was a lot like a number of Kane's goals last year.
Yeah.
So, anyway, frustrating. What else?
Our good friend Keith Nicholson at KeithBook4. Keithy. I'm afraid you have to discuss Lamela. I think we've done that at length. Plus, why do we go forwards only to pass the ball back again? And, we know that Dembele is guilty of that an awful lot, but they were all doing it this week, it seems. So I don't have the answer for that.
I don't either, because you can't tell me that the manager instructs players to do that.
No.
You can't.
No, I think they get this deer in the headlights look, and they switch it from one side to the other. And, of course, it kind of has to go backwards to do that, with the fullbacks making that switch, but it gets frustrating, and it seems to be more prevalent each week, and it was definitely evident this week against Leicester, and God forbid it stops this week against Everton, and we attack them down the wings, we whip some crosses in for a change.
Yes,
that would be nice. You got a question, I believe, from San Diego Spurs.
I loved this question.
And thanks to Ben for being on the show last week. You got some rave reviews.
You did. So he asked, if we keep playing this AVB style, would we have been better off just sticking with AVB? And that's a terrific question. Look, I think that if you put the style aside, AVB is no longer here for reasons other than just football and style. And there were personality issues, and there were sort of dressing room falling outs with players. So but I think the point to really sort of make on the question that Ben where to focus on this question is our style of play. We really are no different, and I think Ben's point is just like it's like Groundhog Day. Here we are again, revolving manager door, but we've got the same kind of shitty, boring style of football. Ben, to answer your question directly, I don't know. Maybe you could argue that we would be if you believe that continuity is the real key to success here, is that you just would have endured and that we would have found a way to figure it out, and we would have done so. But I don't believe that Poch's style is really how it's playing out. I believe that AVB style was AVB style. At least we've seen a more entertaining brand of Pochettino football at Southampton, and I believe that could happen here. So,
yeah, and we need it to happen quickly because we're getting a little frustrated. And then you had another question, I believe.
What did I have? Oh yeah. JB2 at M8, which he's at JB2 Coys, said, "Do you feel it's the players underperforming, or the way we tactically approaching games from an attacking view?" And I think we've basically said it's both. It's both. It's a combination of players not playing to their ability. It's a combination of not having the right players, and it's a combination of not having the right strategy, I think.
Absolutely nailed on, mate.
Yep. All right. Well, now that we have the world's problems,